There is a lot of information that's already available and applicable. For example, we know that no-till agriculture in many instances decreases soil erosion and is a good way for sustainable agriculture. We know that there are, when you use irrigation agriculture, drip irrigation systems that are much more effective than what's normally used. We know that if the farmers have access to fertilizers, nitrogen and phosphorus fertilizers, then they can increase crop yields. So those measures are very good, whether we have climate change or not. But in the face of climate change, they're going to be absolutely essential. This cannot be done by expanding into current forest land, for example. It has to be done by intensifying the use in a sustainable manner of the current land and increase productivity. But there must be ways of helping the farmers to promote the sustainable developments. And part of that is, of course, to let the farmers have access to markets. We already have many methodologies and production systems that should be implemented. And it's not a question of whether we should have so-called organic production or industrialized high-level input production. We need to take pieces of both to develop that. We need to build up more carbon in the soil. That's good for carbon sequestration, but it is also good for soil productivity, that you get better crops with more carbon in the soil. So it's a win-win situation. You need to develop much better ways of using irrigation water. You need to have integrated pest management with appropriate chemicals as necessary. You need to ensure that you have fertilizers, but they should be used carefully and in the right amounts. It's ridiculous, for example, the fertilizer prices that farmers have to pay in some developing countries compared to what they have to pay in Europe. And governments here play a major role in ensuring that there shouldn't be tariffs on the import, and they must see that agriculture is an absolutely crucial factor of what they plan for the development. Scientific language is often complicated. So we have a number of methodologies where we now develop participatory approaches in doing the science. And in a way, agriculture has been in the forefront, because in development aid and agriculture, the farmers have very often been included in the development of new cropping practices, new farming systems, etc. And we also must rely on their traditional knowledge. They've been farming the land for generations, and there is a lot of knowledge that they have, which is also of great interest to the scientific communities. The problem with traditional knowledge with regard to telling future generations when to plant, when the rains come, is that those patterns will change in the future, and that traditional knowledge may no longer be valid. And that's why you need to get new information to the farming communities so that they are prepared for changes in the weather patterns, which are totally outside what we have experienced in the past. We need to develop new varieties of crops that can withstand the droughts, salinity in the soils, new pests and diseases that will come to new areas due to climate change, etc. And for that, we need the best genetics that we have. And some of that can best be done through genetically modified organisms with appropriate safeguards from a regulatory framework at the national level.